What's up, y'all? It's GC Kinsey, here with a comparison of how my voice sounded singing Being Alive from Company before and after testosterone. It's been a while since I've made one of these vocal analysis videos, but I am so happy to finally be back with a new one. This one's a little different because I'm going to be looking at a pre-T recording versus a recording tracking the evolution of my voice throughout my second year on T. If you're new to the channel or unfamiliar with my voice change tracking project, when I got on testosterone, I started recording my voice at certain milestones so that I could capture the way it was changing. At the end of each year, I edit all of those milestone recordings together so you can listen to a song and hear my voice get progressively deeper from the beginning to the end. I have a whole collection of songs and poems like this. I've put those collected songs and poems into a playlist at the end of each year I've been on T, and links to those playlists are in the description if you want to check them out. I recently hit 2 years on T, so the song I'm going to be talking about today is from my Year 2 playlist. And that song is Being Alive from Stephen Sondheim's Company. This musical, and especially this song, is a longtime favorite of mine. I first saw a production of Company back in 2008, and I immediately went home and learned Being Alive on the piano so that I could play and sing it at live shows. Before I started T, I recorded Being Alive the way I always used to perform it, in the key of G sharp. But I had always dreamed of being able to sing it in its original key of D sharp and actually sound decent. And thanks to the magic of testosterone and a whole lot of voice training, I feel like I've taken a big step closer to actually achieving that dream. So now let's have a listen to both of these recordings and talk about the differences between them, starting with the pre-T version.
Someone to hold you too close, someone to hurt you too deep, someone to sit in your chair, to ruin your sleep and make you aware of being alive.
You know what? It's always so wild to go back and listen to recordings like this because it genuinely feels like I'm listening to a different person. I know I sang this, but my brain is still going, who is that? Couldn't be me. Anyway, on to the breakdown. This song is one where the emotion is really important in the delivery. In fact, I would even argue that it's more important than the vocal technique. If you watch videos from productions of Company, you'll sometimes hear the actor playing Robert sing this song less pretty in favor of more emotion, and I think that's a really powerful choice. Of course, as a singer, I always strive for both good vocal technique and strong emotion, especially in a genre like musical theater, but I would say emotion is priority number one here. And when I sang this, I wanted to take the listener on an emotional journey as the song progressed. When you listen to these lyrics, that journey goes on a progression from resistance to acceptance with this powerful buildup of passion, right? You've got a character who's a longtime bachelor, resistant to committed relationships, turning 35 and realizing that he actually does want a serious partner who loves him. I find that sentiment pretty hard to relate to personally as someone on the aromantic spectrum, but that's what makes singing this song such a fun challenge. I've got to tap into other feelings I've had about getting older and regretting things that aren't related to romantic love. So let's look at a few of the ways I did that here. To convey Robert's feelings of resistance, I had clipped endings on some of the lines.
Too close to ruin your sleep.
I infused a hint of roughness into the delivery with this bit of distortion on the word deep.
Too deep.
Which is further enhanced by pushing that note into a crescendo and then pulling the volume back again. And I kept my voice pretty soft and light overall, even with some breathiness in some places, like here.
Someone to sit in your chair.
And here.
And make you aware
which introduces a bit of vulnerability alongside that sense of resistance. Overall, a solid start on that emotional journey. Now let's check out the version from my second year on T.
Someone to hold you too close. Someone to hurt you too deep. Someone to sit in your chair, to ruin your sleep and make you aware of being alive.
Right away, there are some pretty big differences. The obvious one is the deeper voice and the lower key. I'm now in the original key of D sharp. But on top of that, I'm starting off this emotional journey in a bit of a different place. That sense of resistance feels more pronounced here, and I think that was possible because I could sing this song lower and heavier than I could before. So I could produce a harder, somewhat more intense sound. You hear that the most in those clipped line endings. There are a few more of those in this version.
Too close to sit in your chair, to ruin your sleep.
You can also hear it in the consonants, which are crisp and clear and kind of aggressive. And I didn't introduce that kind of softness for emotional vulnerability until the line "make you aware."
Make you aware.
Whereas it was more present throughout the whole opening of the pre-T version. One other thing to note is that this portion of the song was recorded at my 1 year on T milestone. So not only will you get the character of Robert's emotional journey throughout this song, but you'll also get my own as my voice gets deeper from 1 year on T to 2 years on T by the end. Okay, moving on to the next part of the song with the pre-T recording.
Someone you have to let in, someone whose feelings you spare, someone who, like it or not, will want you to share a little, a lot, to help us survive. Being alive, being alive, being alive.
So the song is starting to build here, and you can really hear that reflected in the vocal performance. I'm starting out still kind of on the softer side, still mostly in mixed voice.
Someone you have to let in,
Then there's a crescendo on the word spare,
someone whose feelings you spare.
which not only sounds nice on a long sustained note like that, but also really gets at Robert's frustration with the idea of a committed partnership and his resistance to getting into one.
Spare, someone who, like it or not.
So from there we keep going, still in mixed voice, but with growing volume and intensity.
Will want you to share a little, a lot, to help us survive.
And then right there on the word survive, that's when I go into my full chest voice, which is not what I would want to do, by the way, if I were actually doing this show 8 nights a week and singing this song in this key. I would want to sing in a mixed belt rather than pure chest all the way up there. But thankfully, I wasn't getting paid to sing this in a show full time. I was just doing it for fun, so I could prioritize what felt most comfortable and sounded best to me over maybe what was healthiest. As for why I overused my chest voice so much back then, honestly, my dysphoria made me do it. My head voice and even my mixed voice sounded so gratingly feminine to me that I felt more secure using my chest voice whenever I could. So I kept using my chest voice all the way through the end of this part of the song.
Survive, being alive, being alive, being alive.
Now let's compare that to the post-T version. Someone you have to let in. Someone whose feelings you spare. Someone who, like it or not, will want you to share a little, a lot, to help us survive. Being alive. Being alive. Being alive. Okay, some really interesting differences here in the delivery. The first one goes back to what I mentioned earlier about how in the post-T recording, there's more of that sort of harshness and sense of resistance from the beginning. So by the time we get to this part of the song, that frustration and resistance that was still building in the pre-T version is already out in full force here. You can hear that in the word spare, where I had a crescendo in the pre-T version.
Someone whose feelings you spare.
But not so much in the post-T version. Someone whose feelings you spare. And we've got more of those clipped line endings with harsh consonants happening. Like it or not, a little, a lot. Another big difference is on those long notes on words like survive and alive. The vowel sounds are more pure in the post-T version, and I think that's happening because I was consciously darkening my resonance. So that ah vowel sound in a word like alive, which goes from ah to e, alive, right? That ah is more rounded and placed farther forward in the mouth, and therefore comes out more pure than the brighter ah sound in the pre-T recording. Being alive! I also want to point out that this part of the song was recorded at the 1 year and 3 months on T milestone. And even though you can't really hear much difference from the 1 year on T milestone to this one, I could definitely feel a difference as I was singing it. Alright, let's keep going. Back to the pre-T version.
Somebody need me too much. Somebody know me too well. Somebody pull me up short and put me through hell and give me support for being alive. Make me alive. Make me alive. Make me confused. Mock me with praise. Let me be used. Vary my days.
Alright, so this is where we get the paradigm shift in the song and in Robert's emotional journey. We get the change from someone to need you too much to somebody need me too much. We get that realization of, oh, I actually want the thing that I've been resisting this whole time. And the way that's executed speaks to the genius of Stephen Sondheim's songwriting. That means as a singer, you have a responsibility to do that genius justice. You have to make the audience feel that paradigm shift. No pressure, right? So let's talk about a few of the things I tried in this performance in hopes of conveying that. First and foremost, we have a shift back to very soft singing, almost like a whisper.
Somebody need me too much.
Then we have another crescendo on a sustained note and a sigh out of it.
Somebody know me too well.
And this echoes that earlier crescendo on someone whose feelings you spare, without repeating it exactly, but hearkening back to it while still bringing something new to the table.
Someone whose feelings you spare. Somebody know me too well.
Then on the next two lines, we have more of those clipped endings like we did in the beginning, but this time the implication is that the frustration is aimed inward.
Somebody pull me up short and put me through hell.
And the delivery on the word hell is even almost spoken rather than sung. Then as the emotion is really starting to build into desperation, we get this upward slide from chest voice into mixed voice on the word make.
Make me alive.
Which contrasts nicely with the much more piercing delivery of that same lyric on the next line.
Make me alive.
Then we have 3 long sustained lines that build up even more intensity.
Make me confused. Mock me with praise. Let me be used.
Followed by a rapid switch into very soft singing again.
Bury my days.
There's also a creative choice here that I started adding on that line, "Vary my days," whenever I would sing this song live. It's traditionally sung like this.
Vary my days.
Bury my days.
But I would always slow that line way down and stop all the accompaniment behind it, so it was not only sung more softly, but also more or less a cappella. And when I started doing this, I wasn't thinking about it consciously, it just felt right to me. But now that I have more years of experience as a singer and just general life experience behind me, I can see how that creative choice actually enhances the emotions of that line. It makes you stop and pay attention to what Robert is expressing. If you're saying, "Vary my days" with that much feeling, then it must really be hitting you just how boring your days have become. Now let's check out this part of the song from the post-T recording.
Somebody need me too much. Somebody know me too well. Somebody pull me up short and put me through hell and give me support for being alive. Make me alive. Make me alive. Make me confused. Mock me with praise. Let me be used. Vary my days.
Okay, this is fascinating because there are actually a lot of really similar choices in the delivery, but because of the testosterone, they have a completely different sound. First, we've got that same almost whisper softness at the beginning of the verse.
Somebody need me too much.
Somebody need me too much.
We've got those same clipped line endings.
Pull me up short and put me through hell.
Pull me up short and put me through hell.
We've even got that same almost spoken delivery of the word hell, though in the post-T version it has a lot more distortion or roughness.
Put me through hell.
We have that same slide up on the first instance of "Make Me Alive."
Make me alive.
Make me alive.
And that same contrast with the more brash, piercing delivery of the second "Make Me Alive."
Make me alive.
Make me alive.
And something else we get right there in the post-T version is a shift across vocal milestones. From the first "Make Me Alive" to the second, we go from a year and 6 months on T to a year and 9 months on T.
Make me alive. Make me alive.
And between those two milestones, around a year and 8 months on T, I experienced a significant increase in vocal weight. It's a little harder to hear on this recording because I'm not using the lowest part of my range where I get the most bass buzz, but if you listen really carefully, you can pick up how my voice got heavier, and I could absolutely feel it. So the delivery between the pre-T and the post-T versions has been quite similar so far, but now we come to one of the major differences. On the line, "Mock me with praise," I added a lot of distortion in the post-T version.
Mock me with praise!
Whereas in the pre-T version, I sang that line completely clean.
Mock me with praise.
The distortion was a nod to Raul Esparza's performance of this song,
Mock me with praise.
which I adore and modeled this whole cover after, if I'm being honest. And aside from that line, we're back to very similar deliveries. We have that major flip from loud, intense singing with full chest voice pulled back to that soft, slowed down a cappella vocal on the line, "Vary my days."
Let me be used, vary my days.
Let me be used, vary my days.
It was an airier soft sound in the pre-T recording, but in both versions it still gives you that major contrast with the lines that came right before. Alright, time to finish out the song. First with the pre-T version.
But alone is alone, not alive. Somebody crowd me with love. Somebody force me to care. Somebody let me come through. I'll always be there, as frightened as you, to help us survive. Being alive, being alive, being alive.
The ending of this song, once again, really speaks to Stephen Sondheim's genius as a songwriter, because everything, the melody, those long held out notes, those higher pitches, paired with those lyrics, and especially the repetition of the words "being alive," drives this song to such an emotional climax. It's just brilliant. And the singer's responsibility to do that justice gets even bigger here, but that's what makes this ending so satisfying to sing. So we start out with a build-up leading to this high sustained note that goes straight into the next line with no breath in between.
Not alive. Somebody crowd me with love.
And then for the whole rest of the song, I'm just full-on belting with my chest voice. So when I do another almost spoken delivery on "Let Me Come Through,"
Let me come through.
it almost comes out like a controlled shout. There's also a vocal slide here on the first "Being Alive,"
Being alive.
which not only adds a bit of drama and flair, but also infuses some joy into that line, like Robert is realizing just how good being alive is going to feel. Then we get one more "Being Alive" in chest voice.
Being alive.
Then on the final "Being Alive," I had to switch back into mixed voice because my chest voice didn't go that high.
Being.
But because it was a heavier mix or mixed belt, it still sounded nice and powerful alongside all of those other chest notes. And then we finish strong with that last long held out note.
Alive.
I think this part of the song, the ending, is where that feeling of, I don't know who this singer is, but it's not me, is most pronounced. Like, when I hear this played back, especially now, it feels so disconnected from the sound that my brain is expecting to come out of me. And that's not to say it sounds bad. I think this is a good performance. The vocals are solid, the emotional delivery is definitely there. It just sounds like a different person to me, despite despite my very clear memories of how it felt to sing this. So with that in mind, let's check out the ending of this song in the post-T recording.
But alone is alone, not alive. Somebody crowned me with love, somebody forced me to care. Somebody let me come through, I'll always be there, as frightened as you, to help us survive. Being alive, being alive, being alive.
Alright, that finally sounds like me. So again, we have a very similar delivery to the pre-T version, just with a different sound, but this feels like the voice I'm expecting to hear instead of the voice of some random stranger. We also have another switch between vocal milestones in this part of the song from 1 year and 9 months to 2 years on T.
Not alive. Somebody crowned me with love.
And I placed that switch right in the middle of those two lines where you don't get a breath in between, which first of all required some careful editing. I had to record that line at both milestones and then composite them together later. But you also get to hear something super interesting with that switch, which is an improvement in the quality of my vocal strength and tone. Like I mentioned earlier, I had a significant increase in vocal weight around 1 year and 8 months on T, so when I made these milestone recordings at 1 year and 9 months, my voice was honestly really unstable. And you can hear a little bit of strain if you listen closely. Whereas when it cuts over into the 2-year milestone, my voice sounds stronger and more stable and just has a better sound quality overall. And that worked out nicely for delivering the powerful ending that this song requires. There's a lot of emotional intensity in these lines.
Somebody let me come through, I'll always be there, as frightened as you.
Again, with a bit of that almost spoken quality on some of the words. And then as we get into those long sustained repetitions of the lyric being alive, we hear a kind of similar infusion of joy into those lines with vocal slides like we did in the pre-T recording.
Being alive, being alive.
And then there's the big payoff on the very last line, where you have a long, powerful note on a pure open vowel.
Being alive.
Plus the tiniest hint of distortion here. To echo those couple of places where I'd used distortion earlier and really drive home the emotions that Robert is feeling. And of course, what was extra emotional for me when I sang this in the studio was hearing a sound come out of my mouth that I had previously only ever dreamed of. And what's even cooler about this dream come true is that it's still a work in progress. Just imagine how it's going to sound over the course of year 3 and year 4 and beyond. It's only going to keep getting better from here, which is really, really exciting, y'all. So with that, now I'm gonna close this one out. I hope you enjoyed this vocal analysis. I'd love to hear how you liked both versions of Being Alive and how they compared, so drop a comment below and let me know what you thought. You can also reach out to me on other social media. I'm GC Kinsey across all platforms. If you want to hear both recordings of this song in full, plus a live performance I did back in 2009, those are all linked in the description. And while you're here, feel free to check out some of the other cool stuff I've got on this channel. I have playlists of all of my pre-T and post-T voice recordings. I have 2 years worth of the project tracking my voice changes on T, and I've already started making recordings recordings for year 3. I have cosplay music videos, cosplay tutorials, vlogs about my experiences as a queer person, and more, so make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss anything new. And with that, thank you for joining me for this vocal analysis. I hope you had a fantastic time, and I will see you on the next one.